Welcome to the Emo Social Club podcast, broadcasting to you live from emosocialclub.tv. I am Brian.
And I'm Lizzie, and we're here this afternoon with our new friend, AJ of Glow in the Dark. We're so happy for you to be here, dude.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's Glow and the Dark, not Glow in the Dark.
Listen, I was talking and I looked at it and I said, it's Glow and the Dark. And it's just not what came out.
It does roll. And I don't know if this is like, you know, different like regional dialects are going to say it as like glow in or glowend. And it's like, you kind of have that like rolls, the end like rolls into it, you know?
Yeah. Well, I found out from just like, you know, when I picked that band name, I wanted to see if like, you know, any other bands had it and all that stuff. And I found out that a lot of people just like mispronounce the phrase glow and the dark when they're talking about like, you know, glowy stars and stuff like that. And I was like, damn. So some people are just not even going to get that this is like, you know, a modified phrase. But yeah, I didn't find any other bands, luckily. I think there was like a Kanye West tour called Glow and the Dark. But that tour happened, so it's gone. It's done.
That happened, and Kanye hasn't. He thinks he has that much power, which maybe he does, but not that far-reaching power.
Yeah, you can't just like claim your tour name and be like, no one can ever name anything this again.
Right. Well, let's let you introduce yourself. Talk about Glow and the Dark and what you do and who you are.
Yeah. Well, my name's AJ. I grew up in San Diego and currently live here. And I just play in a lot of bands. It's kind of just like my MO. And Glow in the Dark is the most recent band that I started. I started it around this time last year, actually, in quarantine. And it was right around the time that all the BLM protests were happening. And I was going to quite a few of those and being active in that. And yeah, I don't know. It takes a lot out of you. It makes you pretty sad about the state of the world. And I was at one protest that was pretty small. And the organizer had a megaphone and was like, after this, go do something that makes you happy, because, you know, you can't just be, you know, in this like depressive mindset all the time. Like, we need you guys to take care of yourselves too. And I was like, damn, I do need to do something to make myself happy. And so I had a song that I wrote, and I had a band name that I always wanted to use. So I just, I hit up my friends and I like booked recording time, because I was like, this is what makes me happy. Like, working on music always makes me happy. And I had to do that for myself. And yeah, I put out the one song and then sent it to Dark Horse Coffee Records. And that was the only label that I reached out to, and they actually like wrote me back the next day and were like, this is cool, why don't you come in, we'll talk about your next release. And I was like, damn, okay, cool. And so now it went from just being like a, you know, just a project that I thought was only going to have one song and be just kind of like you know, an excuse for myself to be happy and have something to work on. And now it's like a real band with, you know, band members and like hopefully shows soon. Yeah.
What? You reached out to a coffee? Oh,
yeah, that's
yeah. When I was
that
looking,
requires some explaining.
I was looking at like the label and the presser, and I'm like, this sounds fun. Now, what's going on here?
Right. Okay. So, Dark Horse Coffee Roasters is a really popular coffee roaster in San Diego, and I'm a really big coffee guy. And so I noticed a couple years ago they started a label, and they only had one band signed to it called the Petty Saints, and played a couple shows with those guys on the bill. And I was like, as soon as I found out about the label, I was like, I have to be involved with this somehow, because it's my favorite coffee roaster and they're starting a small label. And I've worked at a bunch of small labels before. And so I was like, you know, I just want to be involved somehow. So when I did put out that one song, they were the first ones I wanted to send it to. And now like we're friends and like we go get beers together and stuff. And it's awesome. And we got to put out my EP. We're working on a music video right now. And it's like, honestly, it's like super cool. I think those guys are really rad. And I don't think that they realize that I'm like a fanboy of their coffee.
Now, would they be able to make you your own coffee bean roast for Glow in the Dark? Is the next real question.
Yeah, we have talked about that a little bit, and like I'm like honestly dying to have that. That would be the coolest thing ever. But they do so much rad stuff for me. Like, they recorded and produced and mixed and mastered my whole record that I just put out. And they're like producing this music video for me for like no money. And so like, I'm afraid to ask them for like, can I have a bag of coffee? Or like, can I have my own like coffee, like blend, or even like a single origin that we're just allowed to call Glow in the Dark or whatever. But I think it might happen eventually.
I'll definitely really cool. Cop that. I've been trying to do like a band beans thing because I used to be a barista for like 6 years. So I'm like, but I'll like on our YouTube, I'm like, here's some band beans that we got.
Dude, yes, that's so cool. It's like the best band merch that you can have, because it's like, so Dark Horse has put out like bags of coffee for specific bands. Like they did a pup blend. And I was like, I have to have that. I didn't even really know the band Pup that well at the time. And I was just like, it's a band and it's on coffee. Like, I want it. And now I'm like a Pup fan. But like, yeah, just stuff like that it's super cool. I actually have been trying before Dark Horse. I had like been experimenting with roasting my own coffee beans, and it's going super bad. Like I just did some yesterday that I think actually might turn out well, but the idea with that was like, maybe I could make small batch coffee and like sell it at shows. But now I have Dark Horse coffee roasters. So
yeah. Roasting coffee is like, I knew a kid in undergrad and he did it like in his kitchen somehow. And he was like really particular about it. And he's like, I've been doing this for years. And I'm like, yo, this is crazy to me.
Yeah, lots of people do it in just like cast irons, and they like, it's just like roasting anything, but with specialty coffee and stuff like that, it's like, you want to control as many factors as possible. And I'm trying to do that with this. Like, I wish I brought it up here, but I have like this ridiculous coffee roaster thing. It's like a little ceramic bowl and like a handle, and I just like shake it over fire for like 15 minutes.
It's like trying to make popcorn, except it's like, please don't be green
like
anymore.
Really slow popping popcorn. Yeah, like, but it's fun,
I mean, it's a crazy like great idea to put out merch that like obviously everybody's doing it right now, but like making it yourself and being like no. I am the one who sat in front of the flames, putting this roast myself. I ground it for you, and now I bring it to you as part of my set. Please enjoy my show.
Yeah, I want to, when shows start happening again, I want Dark Horse to like come to some of them and like sell their cold brew cans. But then I just thought about like, the crowd would get so caffeinated. Yes. Like, shows generally happen at night. And I would just feel bad.
They just be like uppers and downers. Yeah. Let's go.
Yeah, and you could like tell who did what in the crowd. Like, those guys are all drunk and those guys are all on way too much caffeine.
All the under 21 at your shows are going to be like, oh shit, I get coffee. I can buy some coffees instead of buying beers while everybody's drinking. It's like a bunch of hopped up kids at 10 p.m.
Yeah. My God. I did go to a show one time at the Brick by Brick in San Diego, and they have like modern times cold brew cans. And I was like, at the time I wasn't drinking. So I just kept going back to the bar and ordering those and like drinking them like beers.
Oh my God.
And then after like the third one, I was like, I'm going to kill myself. Yep. Like, I have to stop. Yeah. But yeah, it's a coffee at shows, I think would be cool.
Be a great idea.
Yeah.
I think it's the next wave. I think especially after like, the pandemic, everyone was like, oh, I'm drinking more. Then a lot of people were like, oh no, I should be sober. I think it'd be like a good way to like usher in and be like, hey guys, you can be hyped up at 10 p.m. and then be up for that 6-band bill and not complain about it.
Yes.
And then we sell melatonin in the parking lot. That's
in the parking lot. Come on, guys. One gummy, $5.
Our band logo on it. Yeah.
You're also selling merch with cassettes in it, so like it's already part of
Yeah,
your.
you have the little. I saw those like little coffee sacks that you would get in. I'm
Yeah.
like, that is so cute.
I actually have one. Let me grab it real quick.
Yeah, show it
Ooh.
off.
So yeah, so I just had this idea for a while where like I went to Dark Horse's like roasting facility and they had just these, big burlap sacks of coffee. And I think those are super cool because they're usually stamped with like the country that they came from and the origin that they're from. And they just look really cool to me. So I was like, what if we took those and made them into little coffee bags? And then
I
it's
love that.
like they would all look different. Like this one is just, I don't know. It's like some random lines and stuff, but then it's a cassette koozie. And you can have a cassette in it.
Cassette koozies for the world.
Yeah. And then, I shove a bunch of stickers in there too.
Absolutely.
And yeah, that's been fun because I've, it seems like CDs are just like, I have like CDs from bands that I was in like, 10 years ago, just sitting. And that's like a depressing thing to have. So like, I didn't know if people were going to buy these or not. So I was like, cassettes are great because they're not as expensive as vinyl. These were like, like $1 to press, and they come with a download code, and it's a physical piece of merch that I can sell that like is cool. And maybe you'd want to keep it because it comes with a coffee sack.
Yeah. I think
Like
what's crazy is that I've seen some people on Twitter and they're like, oh, I have all these cassettes. I should buy like a Walkman. And we're thinking it's 2021. You should probably be able to go on like eBay or your like wherever you're like your local not Radio Shack, whatever it would be, and be like, I need a Walkman or like a cassette player. And it should be super cheap. But because there's so many like cassettes out there, people are like, a Walkman, $300.
Yeah.
It's vintage.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, they really need to like reissue those because I think like lots of bands have cassettes now. Like I have a little collection going just from like local bands that I like enjoy. And I'm like, I have nothing to play this with. So my friend's solution was he like went and got an actual like boombox, like huge like ghetto blaster, and he just put it on his table, and that's how we listen to music when we go over to his house. And that's such a sick idea that like, I would love to see that be more of a regular thing.
Everybody walk around with your big boombox down the street with all your cassettes of your homies' music.
Yeah, and speaking of things that are emo, like that's kind of emo thanks to the movie Say Anything. So yeah, we need cassettes in order to bother people at night.
There are people who listen to the Hawthorne Heights song Nikki FM and they're like, I'm outside of your window with my radio, and there are kids who are like, what's a radio? A radio's in your car. How are you standing outside with a car radio?
And they're like, I don't even use the radio in the car. And I'm like,
like this, this entire reference is lost on an entire generation now.
Dude, that's so funny. Yeah, that's very true. I was on a different podcast recently and we were talking about like how like technology references like that don't hold up or they do hold up. And I was positing that Backstreet Boys are better than NSYNC because Backstreet Boys have a song called The Call, and everyone still has cell phones and like knows what that is. But then like instant messaging in the NSYNC song Digital Get Down might be lost on a lot of people because AIM isn't even like supported anymore. So therefore the Backstreet Boys are better. Also,
just because, I mean, it's a song called Digital Get Down. We can all posit what it's about. It's like, well, FaceTime, like Snapchat, like what do you mean?
They're like DMing me. Call it DM.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Not to, obviously be safe on the internet, kids. I'm not saying like listen to NSYNC and like just get out there and start.
But also
digitally
say
getting down
correctly. I was watching this show called The Circle with my sister, and one of the contestants didn't know who NSYNC was, and she had to maybe be in her like early 20s, so I would still assume you would know who NSYNC is. And she kept just like spelling out their name instead of just saying NSYNC, and it hurt me. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna need you to like not be on the show anymore.
Oh man, we're so old now. It sucks.
It hurts. And like I do think, because you know, Lizzie, we were talking about this before, but it's like, I think they're playing it up for like the character that this person is playing on this reality show is like supposed to be dumber than she actually is. But I also wouldn't be surprised if there were people who are like 20, 21, 22 who are like, wait, I never heard NSYNC. Like, oh, Justin Timberlake, sure. Oh, yeah. But I don't know the other four members and I don't know any songs by NSYNC. I don't know if that's like lost on that generation when we're just like, oh my God, my heart. Like I had that on CD in a little Walkman with headphones on a bus, you know, like that's a totally different situation for both of us.
Yeah, definitely. But then there's like versions of that somehow still exist today, I guess, with like just like new adaptations of it. You know, just different technologies and stuff. Like we don't understand TikTok. They don't understand cassette tapes.
Yeah.
So it's a trade-off. We have things to teach each other.
We can learn from the younger generation.
Brian, I'm telling you got to get on the TikTok more.
I hate it though. I very rarely, and I don't know, we didn't talk our ages before getting on this, but I am 34. I am feeling like I feel my age sometimes, and it usually is like a generational thing of like talking about nostalgia, talking about old technology, talking about where like industries are going, especially the music industry, which is really slow to evolve and really slow to grab on to new ideas and start using them and promoting and moving music. But for me, I generally am like very open-minded to everything that happens, very open-minded to any new idea. TikTok is the first one where I've been like, what the fuck is going on? Why do I feel so old with this?
Dude, I'm right there with you. Because I usually try to embrace every new thing that comes out, but that I just can't do because like I saw like some like Reddit post that a guy was like, my job is I reverse engineer apps, and like I built TikTok for an assignment the other day, and literally it is just a data mining app.
Yes,
it's like 99% data mining app, and then 1% like targeted videos. And I was like, I don't want to do it. I hate ads. I hate the idea that like I'm, being put in some kind of demographic. Yeah. And then they're like, you want to buy this freaking like cassette made of coffee. And I'm like, God damn it, I do.
It's like,
I do want
know
that.
me too well.
Yeah. Yeah. Like the ads always are good. And I do acknowledge that like there are some benefits. They are outweighed by the negatives. But for like an independent artist, for somebody who is growing in the scene, like we have friends that have done very well on TikTok, and there's a lot of people who are like, yeah, I'm going to jump into it. I'm going to jump onto this bandwagon and start doing stuff on this platform. It's just like that part of it. And then the part of it where it's like, wait, what is entertaining about any of, like I get, every time I go on, Lizzie and I share a TikTok. So it's, I think, primarily targeted towards Lizzie. Of course, it's not going to be targeted towards me. I go on there and I'm like, get off my lawn.
Sometimes you go on there and I can tell and I'm like, hey, you doing all right?
Yeah, well, it does think that we're a sad bisexual. So I guess that's...
Listen, it's better than us being on actual straight TikTok from what I heard, because it's apparently just terrible.
Like, even as straight people, we don't want to be on straight TikTok. I'd rather be on bisexual TikTok. Like, I just find it more interesting and entertaining. But I just don't understand how to create content for it, I guess. And I just don't know if it's like it's the first time I've really said, like, is it my age? Am I just like not connecting with this idea? Like, Instagram makes sense to me. I hate Twitter, but it makes sense to me. Facebook, we all talk that we fucking hate it, but terrible. It makes sense to me. It's just throw chaos into the world and don't join any groups, basically.
I think what like the biggest thing is, because I'm the main one making us like a lot of the other videos outside of our podcast clips for TikTok, is that I've noticed that it's become more of like, for whatever your niche is, it's like, oh, here's a trend that you do. This trend almost always, at least 95% of the time, incorporates some type of like traumatic event for the creator. And I'm like, yeah, I don't want to put that out there to people. So I'm not going to do this trend, which means like you don't get as popular. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. So
Yeah. Yeah, totally. My only window into TikTok is that my girlfriend has it, so I'll watch it from over her shoulder.
Mm,
And a lot of stuff that's on TikTok just ends up on Instagram anyway.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
feel like that's my filter.
Yeah.
into
Watch it on Reels instead.
Yeah, exactly. Like it makes its way on there.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like as a musician, you're obviously, I mean, you're not on TikTok, I'm assuming then for Glow in the Dark. But then it's like, well, what do you think like about the landscape now of like growing a band on those social medias? Like, do you think that it's like we were saying before, it's like, I don't want a Facebook, but they told me I have to have one for all this shit. And like, we don't want to have a Facebook. Like, what's your theory about like growing it on social media now in this generation?
Maybe this is a long-winded answer to that, but I was watching a movie called Fanboy that was like produced by some like local San Diego musicians. And I joke that it's kind of like the Michael Scarn episode of The Office, where it's like, you know, everybody acting in a movie that you're like, oh my gosh, there's Airbnb, and like,
Yeah.
and they kept referring to the music that there's like a band in the movie, and they kept referring to themselves as like underground music. And I was like, oh, that's like a word that I've like forgotten to associate with like the type of music that we care about, you know? And so like, you know, if you don't want to like engage in TikTok, and like nothing against bands that do that, like that's awesome.
Yeah.
But if you don't want to, then you're kind of just, you know, maintaining that sort of like underground musicness. And, you know, lots of people have been talking lately about how it's just kind of like not feasible to be super famous in a rock band anymore. And I think that therefore, if you want to just be this weird underground band that that misses TikTok, then I think that's cool. I think that you would wind up on there anyway, even if you're not the one putting it out there. But I don't know. Probably like next week I'll make one.
Yeah, that's what we said.
Just to see like what's going on here.
Yeah, we were talking to another band, and they were like, "Yeah, we just did this on TikTok and all this," and we're like, "Listen, gotta do this." It's like, yeah, shit. Like now we've had the conversation. I kind of side with you though. Like there is a certain level of like it's all word of mouth in some way or another. Like it's all a word of mouth, like pushes music to new people. People are interested in music because they hear about it from a friend or they see him at a show. And so there's like this very organic way of growing a band in that regard. But obviously like during a pandemic, you're like, hey, listen to my new music. And it's like, well, I can't see you at a show. I can't like find you anywhere. It's like, it becomes more of like well, we have to be on these places because of that. And I'm wondering if it does kind of change, if music is not reverting back. I don't think it'll ever go back to the way it used to be, but I'm wondering what the change will happen now that we're like getting back into the world. Hundreds and hundreds of bands have come out of this pandemic and are going to be playing shows now. We're going to have 100 shows a night per night. Every venue will be full to the brim. So I'm wondering what it looks like after this too.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how it's going to go as well. Cause like how bad would it suck if like it just went back to normal and like people still just didn't go to shows and stuff like that. That would suck. But yeah, no, I see what you're saying. Like there is like, you know, how else do you get that content out there to people? And the thing about it is like, I have never been, the whole reason that I got into music and specifically like emo and punk music is because I'm not like a particularly like a person that likes to be the center of attention or likes to have focus on me and stuff like that. And so then being like this interesting like TikTok personality or like coming up with like content that isn't just like my feelings in a really loud guitar isn't natural to me. And I don't know. I think that somehow I'm gonna have to make it work without, you know, without feeling like I'm just putting on like the AJ show, because I don't want it to be like that.
Sure.
That's why I didn't, I have a band that is basically just me and a drummer, but it has a band name instead of being like my name.
Absolutely.
So.
Well, let's talk about a little bit more about this band. I know that you said it's basically here for you to be happy and to have like just like a better experience and like have just a better life overall. It sounds like, and their mindset, because everything has been terrible this past year. When you were creating some of these songs, what was going into it specifically? Were you pulling more from like these different events, or were you just kind of pulling from like your overall emotions and feelings from it, from whatever it was?
Yeah. So the very first song that we put out, that was like the initial like proof of concept of the band, that was a song I'd actually written a few years before and just didn't know what to do with it. It wasn't going to go to one of the bands that I play in, so I just sat on it, and that was kind of like my feelings wrapped up. It was a song, "Sunshine is Boring," and it was about just kind of being stuck in LA, like, and it felt like I was living in this waiting room. It's kind of what it felt like. And then the rest of the songs, like the new EP, a lot of it started off as like instrumental stuff, which normally when I come up with like song ideas, it's usually like a lyric and a melody and a guitar part all at once. That it comes to, but for a lot of those songs, I was starting off with instrumentals, and that kind of came from like pre-pandemic going into the pandemic. I was rehearsing like a lot, like 15 hours a week to go and record this record. We were putting in a lot of hours of like, practice time. And in between, like, these rigorous like writing sessions, I was just like messing around on my bass and like taking little voice memos of like little bass lines that I was writing. And that's kind of where I went to. It was this little archive. I actually put them all in a note and called it like the bass riff locker. And like, that's kind of where I was getting stuff from. Like the song Kickstand, which was our first single, is like this like harmonic bass riff, and a little like hi-hat part that our drummer was playing. And it's Jordan, the same drummer that's in my band. We were in this other band together writing this album, and we started playing that opening riff as a joke all the time. Like whenever there was a lull in band practice, we would just start playing that riff just to like almost like annoy people. And then it came down to like, dude, we should make that a song. And I, pulled lyrics just from like things, weird stuff that's happened in my life and stuff like that. But it was more interesting for me this time around, like writing lyrics and like deciding what the story is going to be to like riffs and to musical figures instead of just all at once, So, yeah.
So when it comes to you being on all these other bands, because you said it's just kind of like your thing and what you're known for, I can only imagine how that is. But like, when was that kind of like your thought of like, I'm just going to be in all these bands and I'm just going to flow through with it? Because I feel like everybody's always joking like, oh, it's hard to find a drummer, and a drummer is in like, 10 bands, for example. I feel like that's what it would be, but I also feel like it would just be like a really chaotic, fun experience.
Yeah, it is a lot of chaos and it's a lot of fun. And it just kind of happened naturally. Like I started playing in this band called Weatherbox, and from there I started going on tour and then meeting bands all over the country and making a ton of friends. And that kind of led me to meeting the band Sundressed, because they opened for us in Phoenix on my first tour. And I just became friends with them. And then they were like, we need a bass player for this tour. We need a guitar player for this tour. And I just filled in so much that I just became, they were like, do you just want to join the band? And I was like, yeah, sure. And, so then I was like in two bands. And then another band called Future Crooks was started by a bunch of like people who had been in Weatherbox before. And they were like, yeah, we need a bass player. And I was like, cool, done. And then now I'm in three bands. And then like, that's just kind of how it goes. It's just, it all built up over time, just making friends and being like down to make music. Cause that's my favorite way to hang out with my friends, is just like playing music together. So yeah. So every time I'm at a band practice or like doing something like that, I'm just hanging out with my buds, like playing a show, going on tour. Hopefully there's a lot more of that coming up soon. I got kind of like, I have like show dates on my calendar, which is like the best feeling ever after like 15 months of not having anything.
Yeah.
But yeah. So that's just kind of how it happens, and just being down and available. And then all of a sudden you're in 8 bands, and then like people are like, "Oh, you're in a band. What are they called?" And I'm just like,
which one?
Glow and now I just say Glow and the Dark, because I'm like, that's the newest one. Go check that one out.
There you go.
Does it make it like when you're booking a tour, does it make it really complicated when you're like, oh, sorry, I'm actually on tour with this other band at the exact same time?
I've been so lucky that has like never happened. Usually I get a feel to about like which bands are like gonna start planning stuff, and then kind of like when everyone's seeing what everyone's availability is, I'm like, I think I might go on tour in October, so maybe not then. So it works out well somehow. The worst thing that's ever happened is like I've had to like miss shows like that I had already booked because but that's like one show, and I feel bad like being like, oh, this band has to drop off because I'll be on tour. But for the most part, that's happened like 4 or 5 times ever.
Gotcha.
So it works out somehow.
Yeah. I mean, I've been thinking like maybe that's like the new, like, bands will be more often hired guns than they will be like we bring up Machine Gun Kelly way too much on this. I'm going to try to think of a different reference of like of an artist that we can talk about. But like, if there's an independent artist, and independent meaning like there's only like one dude behind it, or there's only like 2 people that are in it, but you need other musicians. It's like you go on tour with like 5 people, but the band is only the one person. And I'm wondering if that's like something that's also going to change in the future, where it's like talking about like, rock stars and the celebrity of it all, and like being famous in a rock band. It's like, well, if you are famous, then it's like you just need people to be there because they're just playing the music, as opposed to being like NSYNC, where all 5 members matter. All 5 of the members of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys mattered to the success of NSYNC or Backstreet Boys. So I wonder if that's going to change.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of bands that like I'm directly influenced by, like my favorite bands, are all like that. Like started with like Dashboard Confessional. That was one of the first bands that I ever loved, and like that, like they've had consistent lineups for really long periods of time, but like it's mostly just Chris Rava.
Yeah,
and like Save the Day is like my favorite band of all time, and they've always had, from like different record to different record, a totally different lineup. Or maybe like 2 or 3 records is the same lineup, and that changes. And like I love that because it puts like different people's styles on a project, that it's like an entity. So it's not really just that person, it's that person and who they bring to the table. And like Weatherbox is exactly like that. Like Brian is the only dude that's been in that band consistently. And I think I'm like the longest, like I've had the longest stint in Weatherbox after Brian, obviously. I've been in the band for like 8 years, and it's cool because just every new musician that comes through puts their own little personality on it, and it's very cool to see. So I think a lot of projects are going to be like that going forward.
And I
struggle to get 5 people in a room together. So like,
oh my god, Brian!
I know. Yeah,
always been a hassle. Sorry, Lizzie.
No, you're okay. Because I've always just seen, like, especially the last like maybe 2 or so years, a lot of projects are popping up, and like Kississippi and Jetty Bones, for example. I really like those projects, but when I like realize, I'm like, oh, it's just one singular person, and then they just have whoever's doing their backing, instruments when they go on tour. And I feel like that's like just such a new norm. And I never understood why. I'm like, oh, this is just one person. Why do you have like a whole band persona when it's just you? And now I kind of look at it in this different perspective. I'm like, you know what? That's cool to have that cooler name rather than just like using your normal name. And it's the same thing with like, stage names. I was like, I didn't get it when I was younger. I was like, okay, now I get it now. Like, I'm not going to become a musician and be like,
your MySpace name.
Hey, I'm Lizzie B, and like that's my entire thing. And I'm like, no, that's boring.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think it also gives you kind of like the freedom to like if you did want to go do a completely different thing. Like I play in a lot of emo and punk bands, but like if I wanted to go do like a jazz side project or something, like I would have to come up with a different band name for that, or else it would be, you know, I couldn't put out like a free jazz glow in the dark record because that would be like people would just be like, what? So yeah, I think it makes sense in that way. And also it's cool for guys like me because most of what I do is being that backing band for different artists when they need a bass player, they need a guitar player. And that's cool because it creates jobs for musicians.
We love that.
True. Unless, you know, like you, it's just like one guy in 8 bands. Like, no, I get all the guitar jobs.
Yeah, it used to be like half and half, like it would be half guitar and half bass, but now over time it's become all bass, and the only band I play guitar in is Sundressed. Which is cool because I prefer bass, as you can see on my wall behind me. Yeah, there is one guitar that I made. I made that guitar, this one with the hat on it.
Wow.
In quarantine. That was like one of the first, you know, when everybody was like, oh, now I have all this time to like work on stuff that I want to do. I always wanted to build a guitar, and it's awful. It's like completely unplayable, but I did it, and it looks like a guitar.
The thing is that you were able to make a whole ass guitar during
at
some point of the quarantine where like I don't know anybody else who could be like, hey guys, you know what I did my first few months? I made a guitar. Is it playable? Absolutely not. Does it look cool? Yes.
It was made.
Yeah, it was made. And the whole point of it was I really wanted to see if I could like stain the wood with cold brew coffee, just like bringing it back to coffee. But yeah, like I spent like 2 or 3 days just like I made cold brew, and then I just painted the guitar.
Damn.
And then I waited, and then like with a little paintbrush, and I put clear coat over it.
Now, did you use very expensive high grade coffee, or were you like, I just went down to my local store and got like Folgers and made cold brew?
I wanted to say that it was a really cool coffee, but it was actually, I think it was like Starbucks.
Okay.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's fair.
But, you know, using it as paint is kind of a fun way to stick it to Starbucks. Like, this isn't a drink, this is paint.
This is paint. This is what you guys think you're drinking.
Yeah. Yeah. But I don't know.
All right, I was fixing some issues. Sorry. Timing got off there because I was fixing some issues behind the scenes that like keeps going in and out on the stream. So sorry, I probably looked like I was like open mouth just staring at a screen right there for a second.
Technical issues, man.
Yeah, but we're good. We're good. Go ahead. Sorry, Lizzie.
Oh, no, it's okay. I did want to ask, because you did a couple live streams, and I know obviously that's been like everybody's reality this last year. I did see, though, that on one of those live streams, you did a 9 Inch Nails cover of a copy of Us. So, like, what kind of went into that? Because that's, like, very different, I feel. Because I know other people are just doing regular live streams and, like, some, you know, like, more modern-ish covers. I mean, 9 Inch Nails is still pretty relevant, obviously. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, Twin Peaks Sessions is like a live session that they do like on a rooftop in San Francisco, and they put together this live stream where they invited bands to like cover 9 Inch Nails, and my buddy Chris Clark plays in the band Tiny Stills. He asked me if I would be interested in submitting a cover, and I don't even know 9 Inch Nails that well. I was just like down because it sounded fun. And it was fun because I got to like listen to 9 Inch Nails and like pick a song and stuff like that, because I had just never listened that much and I needed an excuse to get into a new band. And so I picked that song, and and then I like my cover of it is like a complete reharm of the song. Like the melody and the lyrics are the same, but I changed everything else about it to make it sort of more my thing. But yeah, I was really nervous because my song was last on they did like a live stream of it, kind of like this, that they later posted to YouTube. But yeah, I was nervous after I saw how sick some of the other bands are. Like, I was like, oh no, dude. But luckily my song came on and everyone in the chat was like really supportive and like it. And some people messaged me and asked me for like the MP3 version of it. And I was like, sweet. That makes me so happy. But yeah, that's how that happened. I just, was down to do that. The other, like most of the live stream stuff that we've done or the live recordings that we've done have been at this thing called Halfway Home that a bunch of my friends started in San Diego. And it's kind of like, Audio Tree or Little Elephant, where bands do like a live session in a house and then they like edit it all together, release it. And that was actually like how we announced my EP, was by doing one of those. And I've been, I've been in 6 of them so far, 6 separate bands Halfway Home sessions, and I have the 7th one booked. So I like those guys. You keep doing it.
Yeah.
I'm actually in a competition. Sorry, what?
Oh, I was gonna say somebody's gonna be doing like a binge watch session of all these different. They're gonna be like, this guy's in a lot of these bands. What's going on here?
I'm in a competition with the drummer in my band, Jordan Crimston, to see who can get to 10 first. And right now we're tied.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. It's fun. It's fun being in a community of musicians. And also like, yeah, live streams are kind of all we have right now. And they do it so well. Like the camera people are like so legit. It's like, like straight up professionals. And then like my buddy Trevor, who does all the audio for it, is like a badass too. So, it's cool. It's some of the better live stream sessions out there that you can go watch. Yeah. So I recommend you go check those out and find a new band that you like. Cause I found so many new bands that I like just from that one 9 Inch Nails thing. And not even just from the bands that played, but also like little previews in between. Like they showed like what Twin Peaks Sessions is. And like, I just liked this band's name. They were called Tummy Ache. So I went and looked them up and they're really sick. I've just been listening to that lately.
Like that's such a simple name, but I'm like, yeah, I like the name.
Yeah,
instantly I was like, I like that vibe.
You're like, I get that vibe. I understand it.
Stomach illness. Let's go.
I'm gonna call a band Digestive Issues and we're gonna have beef.
Oh god. Then everyone's gonna be like, is this the name of the song or is this the band? And you're gonna say,
yes.
Listen, that's a part of the fun.
Yeah. I had a song that didn't make the EP that was called Glow in the Dark. And the EP is also called Glow in the Dark. And I was like, let's just be obnoxious with this. No.
There was a
Glow in the Dark, on Glow in the Dark, by Glow in the Dark.
There was a song that everybody was going crazy for. Like I have a bunch of friends that are very into metal and everybody keeps posting this song. The song is called God's Hate. The band is called God's Hate. And the album is called God's Hate. And I'm like, why did you do that? Why did you have all 3 things? I mean, I guess it's really easy to find because it's just, it's like all the same thing. But I'm also like, wait, why do I love that? Why do I want to do that? Like, that sounds awesome. What if we called every podcast the Emo Social Club by the Emo Social Club, Emo Social Club?
No, that is way too much.
Like, it's cool. I don't know. I think it's kind of cool.
I mean, yeah, it's funny if I almost feel like just from that story that band didn't do that on purpose. I almost feel like it just happened that way, where they were like, this is our band name. And they were like, oh, it's cool to have a song that is your band name. Like, Green Day's done it. And then they were like, well, that's the single. So I guess that's what we got to call the album. Like, I feel like it happened naturally.
Yeah.
But I have no idea, to be honest.
I mean, who can say? But
who can say?
Now you look at a metal
it,
band. We don't know how they think.
No, I mean,
their vibe.
Yeah.
The Glow in the Dark logo is in a death metal, black metal font, which I was like a big fan of.
Yeah, dude. I have this I had that idea for a while. I was like, I really want well, it all started with the album cover for the single Sunshine is Boring is just it's like a picture that my buddy took in of me, like we were like in Salt Lake City and there was just like this abandoned house and I was standing in front of it with like a little stuffed mace that I won at the like bowling alley that we were hanging out at before the show. And I was like, this picture looks metal as fuck. I need to like use this for one of my band's songs and that's not metal whatsoever and just like own that. And I was like, well, then I got to go with an unreadable death metal logo too. And I found this guy named Matt Guac, and he runs an Instagram page called Death Metal Dictionary, where like I don't know how active it is now, but he would post like a word in unreadable death metal like font, and then you know it was just like a daily dictionary, day of the word kind of or word of the day kind of thing. And I was like, dude, can you make me a logo? And he was like, absolutely. And so it looks like this. Oh, it's probably a mirror image.
Oh my god!
Yeah,
we may or may not be hitting up this person to make our own social club one.
Dude, that you should absolutely do that.
Actually, shorts. Actually,
settle down.
That's my next piece of merch for sure. But we actually based the logo off of. I just realized I'm drinking out of this. This is a coffee shop in Philly called Grindcore House.
Whoa!
You can read that. But I sent him that and he was like, dude, I love Grindcore House. And I was like, I picked the right guy. Because he lives in like North Carolina. So I don't even know how he's been to Philly, but yeah.
I want to know the thought process behind this, like the coffee shop owner and roaster be like, you know what? I have the name for it, Grindcore House, because it can go like so many ways.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when they play Grindcore, it's awesome. And it literally is a house. Like it's an old like row home in Philly, in South Philly, that they play. It's an all vegan grindcore cafe, and it's awesome. It's
Brian, we're going to Philly.
Yeah, we're about to plan a trip
specifically for this coffee shop to understand what's going on.
Then just
in
drive
Philadelphia.
Right
home. Yeah, they have the best
driving.
bands
We're getting on
and
a
the best
plane.
coffee.
Okay.
Yeah, it's probably better.
Probably better.
Yeah.
Probably much
I did my
faster
first like road trip in October, and I said, "There's a plane. There's a plane we could take."
It's a whole different experience. It's it's like a touring experience, right? It's like you got to get there, but it's a whole different way of traveling, and it's a whole different way of traveling with other people, and it's a whole different experience. I say this, I would maybe go on one road trip like every 4 years. Like I think that's a strong limit on my endurance of being on a road trip.
Listen, the one time I did I drove maybe 3 hours. I drove to basically Chicagoland area to Southern Illinois. 3 hours. I said, no, this is too much. Why do people do this?
Yeah, dude. I've been on a couple of those before. And well, just on tour and stuff, those long drives. It's not as bad once you force yourself to do it day after day, and you're like, oh, we only have to drive 5 hours today. That's awesome. But there's been times where I've been driving through the night and literally hallucinated other cars on the road just from being literally a 12-hour long drive through the night. And my buddy, who was supposed to be awake, keeping me awake as the driver, he had fallen asleep, and I was like, all right, I'm just on my own driving through the country. And he woke up and saw me change lanes and then get back in the other lane. He's like, why did you do that? And he was I was to get around that truck. And he was like, there was no truck you're pulling over right now.
Oh, that's danger zone hours.
Yeah, so it's it can be insane. And I the band Sundressed hates when I drive because I hate stopping to use the bathroom, and I absolutely forbid pee bottles. Will not be in the same van as a bottle of pee rolling around. So they all get mad at me because I won't stop and also won't let them.
Is it just like out of I want to get there as soon as possible, or is it out of like what is the reason for not stopping?
Yeah, I want to just get there because that means that there might be time to get coffee before the show.
Fair. Okay.
Or because I'm also just a lizard and like I don't eat any food on tour. Just like I don't pee, I don't like drink water. My band's all call me a lizard because I just like exist.
Yeah. No, because usually like if you're starting a road trip, I'm like, okay, it's 4 hours before, like I'm done eating or drinking anything. Like we're about to go, we're about to be driving, like get it all out of the system so that you can just drive for a long period of time. But like, yeah, then I can't do it. Like if I have to go, it's like, yep, we're stopping, we're pulling over, everybody go, everybody just, it's happening. I'm like, I wish I could do that. I wish I could just like hold it all together. Just keep it real.
Hold it all together. You have to test your willpower. You have to train yourself, Brian. Listen.
Apparently, this one every 4 years is this. Yeah.
The next time you're gonna be with somebody, you'll be like, "Listen, we're gonna try this, and if you don't like it, get out of the car."
You know, it's funny. After like 8 years of touring in bands, I've never actually just been on a road trip where I didn't have to play a show.
Yeah, I can't imagine it being.
It must be nice.
Yeah, I mean,
no
like,
time frames, no deadlines, just like straight vibes and like national weird capital things that you're like, oh, they have that.
And if you see some weird stuff, like you want to go see like the world's biggest hole, and you want to pull over to like go see one of those like tourist trap things, like you have time to do that because you don't have to be anywhere. Like that must be great.
I mean, the only road trip I've done recently was we did Route 66 from Chicago to LA. Problem was that cool. I booked like a filming, like to be the audience for a filming of a show, and then ended up that was the Wednesday after Riot Fest. So we were like Monday leaving, so we had 2 days to get to LA, and we were like, well, we could do this, we could do this. Like, yeah, we can't even drive on actual Route 66. Like, we're basically just driving all the way to LA. Like, this is literally just like get in the car, we're driving to LA. This is not a road trip. This is just a worse way to get to a place. So we missed like all that shit because we did schedule something like 2 days after. It's like, man, should have done like the Thursday one, and we would have had way more time. We also were like, well, on our way back, we're gonna hit Vegas, so let's like at least have a couple days in Vegas. Yeah, all right. So then as you start to plan shit, you're like, man, I really missed out on the world's largest ball of twine.
Yeah.
You're like, I could have stood next to it and saw how big it actually is.
Could have seen the twine. Could have counted the individual twines.
Yeah, if you're really like vigilant band, then you can get everybody up early. Then you get like one cool thing that you can see on the drive, and it's always like, for some reason, it's always like the Breaking Bad house. Like bands always go to that. But my favorite thing is the Salt Flats in Utah.
Yes,
that's a great one. Great band photos. Great times also. One time we stopped there and somebody had like tried to drive their car onto the Salt Flats, got stuck, and we had to help them get out.
Damn. I mean, they filmed so many commercials there. You'd assume that like you'd be fine to do it with your Prius or whatever.
So the worst part is the people were like obviously like tourists from a different country, and it was a rental car.
Okay.
You know, and they didn't speak English or anything, but you don't really need language to communicate what the problem is. Like,
you're just like, that looks concerning.
Yeah.
You guys need help, we'll help you. We're able-bodied people. But yeah, my favorite thing in Chicago to do, because you're already there, so you can already go, but Chicago Music Exchange.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the Reverb headquarters is right across the street.
We have friends that worked for Reverb and worked at Chicago Music Exchange, and they'd always post so much stuff with like with Aaron Gillespie of Under Oath came in, or like these big drummers who come in and they're just like, yeah, like my buddy I know who's a drummer, so he's just in the room and he's just like, hey, here's me and this drummer now. And it's like, dude, do I just need to like be over there like all day? Like all these musicians come into town and they just walk right in and I'm missing out on all of this. And then all the people at Reverb would just like run downstairs and be like, yeah, we just met him real quick because he was here. Billy Corgan a lot too, actually. That was one that always comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, hey, I need a new guitar.
Well, now you gotta go to his little vegan tea shop up north and be like, hey.
I would do that. That sounds cool.
I want to like him so much, but then
you're like Smashing Pumpkins though. Right, that's why I feel like gotta go, and I'm like, I almost forgot they were there.
Even though I hate the idea of liking Billy Corgan, I'm still gonna go watch Smashing Pumpkins.
Yeah, oh, they're a classic band. You have to. I was doing this weird thing the other day where I was like, I was taking a survey for my local radio station to potentially win $1,000. And it just required you to listen to a lot of songs from the radio and then say like if you like the song or if you don't like the song or if you hear it too much. And I just felt bad because I was like, I should be like swiping like hard right on every like rock song to make sure that guitar music is on the radio. But then it would be like a Smashing Pumpkins song and be like, I hear it too much. And then like a Red Hot Chili Pepper song, I was like, hate. And then like all the weird like 80s synth music, I would be like, it's pretty cool. Like we need more Depeche Mode. Yeah. But I'm like, wait, guitar music. Fuck, I forgot my purpose.
I forgot my purpose.
All the Depeche Mode.
I'm wondering if that's one of my radio stations.
It's 91X in San Diego.
It's one of my radio stations. I just started a new job doing audio production for the national level, and I'm pretty sure it's one of my alt radio stations that I work with.
Can you make sure that I win the $1,000?
And tell my PD, hey, don't worry about it.
She'll make sure it's all Smashing Pumpkins and zero Depeche Mode
all
songs.
It's always Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Fucking Red Hot Chili Peppers, man.
Jesus Christ.
Right.
I know. I was like, even though I said like I hear this too much, I'm like, you're still gonna be on the radio
all the time.
Oh yeah, there was like an article about like they literally asked a question: why is there so much Red Hot Chili Peppers and why can't it be stopped? And the answer from like a programming actor is like, I don't know. It's just always there and people want it. I'm like, no, who wants it? I don't want it. No one wants this. It's too much.
People want it. They just did the right thing, I guess.
I know.
Well, actually, it is about an hour. So I want to give a chance to throw out some plugs, give people the information of where they can find you on the internet, where they can check out the music, watch the videos, all that good stuff. So, yeah, give us some plugs. Plug yourself.
Well, I would say go watch the Glow in the Dark music video for Kickstand. I made it myself, and I think it looks like a real music video. But you can find us on YouTube, Glow and the Dark. On Spotify, you actually have to type out the ampersand. So don't type out the word and, use Glow ampersand the Dark. On Instagram as Glow and the Dark Band. I am also still on Instagram as Glow and the Dark, but my account's private, and I don't.
Oh my god!
I don't. People try to follow it, thinking like that's the band page. Yeah. And I'm like, nope. This is like I only like want my friends that I know very personally on here.
Yeah.
But Glow and the Dark Band on Instagram is great. Yeah, I would say that's a great start for you. Go to those places. You can find us on Bandcamp if you want to buy one of these things or a t-shirt. Then we have those in our merch store on Bandcamp.
Perfect.
And Bandcamp Friday's coming up soon, so
Bandcamp
everybody
Fridays.
better add it.
That's right.
Get the merch, get the music.
Exactly. It's the best day to order stuff from Bandcamp. And if you wanted to check out the label, darkhorsecoffeerecords.com is a website, and there are only 2 bands on the label, but it's definitely 2 cool bands.
I feel like that's like, they can give all your attention and focus to making your band successful. I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. I would say coffee person too. You should order a bag of coffee.
Yeah. See, it's like, hey, I know you'd have to make coffee for all of your bands, but luckily there are only 2 of them. So
Yeah.
it's a low number of coffees you have to make.
So everybody buy enough merch or little coffee koozies, cassette tapes, and then be like, hey, where's the coffee now? And then they're going to have to do it.
I can't wait until then. Yeah, I've started to kind of work with the label on other projects too, and kind of like figure out what the label's going to do next. And definitely lots of band coffee is part of that plan. So
Absolutely.
Look out for that.
That's S tier merch all the
S-tier.
time.
Yeah.
I never question if I have to drop $12 to $25 on a bag of coffee beans. Anything else, 100% coffee beans? Absolutely not. Here's my money.
Take it off. Like if you're looking at somebody's merch offerings, you're like, I want a t-shirt. It's
Right.
like, throw some coffee in there. You know what? Throw me a bag of coffee in there. Always.
Totally. Yeah, it's great. So
well, sick. We will end the recording of the podcast episode there, and we will continue the conversation going over on Twitch. We just got a little braid, so we'll talk with some people over there for a little bit. And yeah, make sure that if you are listening to this episode, you check out Glow and either spelled out or ampersanded the dark wherever you want to watch their videos and want to listen to their music. And AJ, fantastic having you on today. This is so much fun.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks again.